When listening to the Problem We All Live With podcast, a few different thoughts came to mind regarding the topic of school integration. In part 1, Nicole Hannah-Jones discusses the Normandy School District in Missouri, which is almost completely black, completely poor, and failing terribly, leading it to be the worst district in the state of Missouri. After hearing this, it saddened me to know that school districts like Normandy are out there with failing students. But I don't necessarily agree with the discussion of Jones and Nedra Martin, who's a mother of a Normandy student, when they point blame at teachers for the students failing. Even in good schools with good teachers, students can still fail. Sometimes it's the students who cause their own failure with lack of interest or care about school. I also had no idea that school districts could be put on probation, especially for 15 years. This was complete new knowledge to me, and I found it crazy to believe that some students went from kindergarten all the way to their high school graduation in a school district that met no state standards. In part 2, Chana Joff Walt talked with Kiana Jackson, a Latina student, who had never had a white friend before. Jackson discussed how her college that she's attending now is 75% white, and she talks about how they hold the door for her, and she didn't expect it because of where she came from. Now, I find it surprising how not only Jackson was never around white people, but how she can't believe a white person would hold the door for a whole minute. Isn't that kind of prejudice? I mean, that would be like me saying, oh, I had no idea that a Hispanic person would help pick up papers that I dropped. Maybe it's because I'm white and I live close to a diverse city that I've never experienced what Jackson experienced. When thinking about part 1, a child attending a school such as Normandy is probably affected negatively. That may be all the child knows, though, so he or she just accepts the poor or lack of education they are receiving. Or that child could be like Nedra Martin's daughter and pushed to receive the education she deserves by attending a totally different school. In part 2, a child like Kiana Jackson was affected positively by her experience. She was thrilled to go to school with majority white students so that she could have a change from her childhood. Once I start teaching, I think it's very important to pass on the information I've learned from these podcasts. Everyone is entitled to a good education no matter where you live, what your income is, your race, and I think all teachers should keep this in mind while educating their students. Maybe if I post copies of the transcripts to these podcasts in our break room, teachers can grab them and read them on their break, or they can even take them home and read them in their free time. But I'd also be more than willing to email links of the podcast to all the teachers throughout the building. When thinking about the topic of school integration today, it is not only a problem within educational settings. This problem goes way beyond school. It's a problem within a community as well. If a school district such as Normandy had so much trouble within its schools, you know that businesses and just the community in general are suffering as well. I am one of those people who did not realize inequality was still so prevalent today in education. So I use the National Center for Education Statistics to search the local high school of the town that I currently live in. Before looking up the school, I figured it would have very little to no black students, just a few Hispanics, and then the rest white. But after looking it up, Central High School has 354 students, with 187 of them being male, and the rest, the 167 of them female. Out of the 354 students, 312 of them are white. There's only 1 American Indian, 5 Asians, 2 blacks, 21 Hispanics, which was much more than I expected, and then 13 students who are 2 or more races. These demographics overall did not surprise me, considering I live in a small rural town that's over 1 hour south of Chicago. But in conclusion, I was very surprised to hear that some schools have not integrated white, black, Hispanic students. For me growing up, I had maybe one black kid in my grade and one Hispanic in my grade. But we were from a rural town that was 20 minutes, out in the country from the nearest city, which is Kankakee, which is a very diverse city. So we weren't around much diversity being out, in the country. It upsets me to hear about school districts like Normandy who are so poor and have been on probation. It really surprises me that that can even happen. Every child deserves a good education, and I really hope that someday we can get to that in our country.